Okay, I want to know, drop the emoji in the chat that sums up how your April was. Was it
There
a
we go.
good month?
I don't know we're officially live yet. Let's go. Here we
I think
go.
we are on Facebook.
Yes,
We're in
we
Facebook. You're right.
Yeah,
We're in
so those
Facebook.
who are
We're still
joining,
in the
whether it's
practice session
Zoom
in Zoom.
or Facebook, drop an emoji or you can do an adjective. What's a word that describes how your April was? We got some shy people.
Well, because we don't have the chat going, we're still in a practice session in Zoom.
Oh,
We're
I thought we
still
were
in there.
live.
So we'll kick it off here. You just let me know when we're
Okay.
going live, Paul. But hey, Facebook people, we're happy to see you. Welcome everyone to another Friday Mortgage Coach Trust Engine Mastermind. On behalf of Dave Savage, who's not here, myself, Deborah Byrd, we are so excited you are here. Deborah was just asking in the chat before we went live, like, what do you want to ask, Deborah? Let's go.
To either drop an emoji or pick one word that would accurately describe how your April went.
So
Was
the
it a
year is
great month? Was it a record-breaking month? Was it an okay month?
so the year's
Let's
one
chat.
third over, and I'm representing today. I'm in New Orleans for Jazz Festival, and totally unplugged, other than the fact that we had the opportunity for Deborah and I to hang out together and really talk about what's working now. What are people doing to win in this market? I'll tell you, I'm going to give the fire emoji for me here. That's what I feel. I feel like a third of the way through the year, and I feel like there's two thirds, and I feel like that there's people who already feel like they're losing, like they're behind. And so I hope today that what we will do is help those of you who are struggling come up with a couple of ideas that really the people who are winning now are doing to win. And then we're also hoping to fire up those of you who are having pretty good momentum. We're hoping to put a little more fire underneath your backside and get you even more momentum as we go. And so we're going to kind of just riff. Deborah and I, we haven't had an opportunity really since we did our January exactly what to say certification where we got to hang out together. So it's kind of fun to be here with you. And let's jump in. Where do you want to start?
I say let's talk about in your own ecosystem, because you work with some big producers and even just, working with Shayla and your years of experience, what would you say is the number one thing that you tell any loan officer, whether you've been in the business and you're feeling stuck or you're brand new, what would be the one non-negotiable that you would have them do on a daily basis?
I mean, I think you got to work a schedule, right? And so when I first started Win by Noon, I went to speak for Kevin Kaufman, who's a friend of our show here, real estate agent who runs a big team for EXP out of Phoenix. And there's about 55 agents in the room. And Joe Obry, who is his coach of his team, got up and he kind of got down low, kind of like Coach Bill Hartwood. And he looked everyone in the eye and he kind of started moving his finger around. He said, "You all got in this business to set your own hours, and that's the exact reason you fail." And I was like, ouch, like that is a slap in the face. But it's really become one of the cornerstone conversations that I have with loan officers, as I feel like that's true for us too. It's true for real estate agents. It's true for us. And most of the time, we get up, we grab out this little thing called a cell phone. We look at the emails and texts on there, and then we start reacting to what they do versus actually saying, you know what? Today is Friday. Today's my day where I'm going to call my leads first. I'm going to call on my pre-approvals who haven't gotten them across the finish line to get applicants who aren't pre-approved yet. And then I'm going to do some annual mortgage reviews or whatever that schedule looks like for you, whatever it is that you need to be doing today in order to make sure you can head into the weekend and go, you know what? There's not a whole lot that I have to worry about, right? My phone's not going to be ringing with things that I didn't get done. And so I really think the number one thing is you have to have a schedule and you have to be like a stickler about it. I was going to use a different word, but you have to be tough and you have to stick to that schedule because ultimately in the end, I think that that's where most of us fail. Most of us get going. We get to the end of the day and we realize, gosh, you know what? I needed to do X, Y, and Z. And guess what? I didn't get to it.
So why do you think it's so hard for people to even create a schedule? Like those who have heard this before, they end up either not making the time or they just don't execute the schedule that they had planned. What's the why, the bigger why behind that?
I think I don't know. That's a great question. I think it's probably either they haven't thought about it or they're just not brave enough to to put themselves first. I know that sounds kind of weird, but every coaching program out there has some type of schedule, right? I mean, there's just not one coaching program out there that doesn't do it, right? So, for me, I call it the ideal week. If you go to the Win by Noon user mastermind group on Facebook, just say, hey, part of the Mortgage Coach community, I'll let you in, and you can go to the files section, and I've got an ideal week that you can print out for you. And I've also got one for your real estate agents. And you don't need to use the version that I have. You can pick one and use it yourself. And maybe you're doing some of these things already. And then the question I would look you in the eyes and get down on it like this is, are you doing it consistently, right? Do you literally do it every
Mm.
week? Like, do I know that every week? So I kind of already said it. Every day you got to call leads, and you got to call applicants who you haven't gotten across the finish line. That could be someone who you need a tax return, you need, you're waiting on a non-contingent offer letter, whatever that weird thing is you need in order to get their pre-qual issued. Because guess what? If you don't get the pre-qual letter to them and their realtor, they're less likely to shop with you. They may go with that person who didn't do a full review, who just gave them the piece of paper, and then all of a sudden that's their lender and not you. So you got to follow up with those people every day. Like, those are daily non-negotiables. And then you just have your target day activities, right? So for me, Mondays was always a catch-up day, right? Who had open houses over the weekend? Who was out looking over the weekend? Checking in with those people to see if they have any leads or need anything from me. I'm always shocked when I talk to a loan officer who says, "Oh yeah, my client went under contract last weekend, and the realtor never sent it to me," right? And they're like, "Oh my gosh!" And then they went out and used, their bank. And so again, it's your job to be proactive to make sure, if your clients are out shopping, that you're actually following up. So it's really just get your week launched. It should be a pretty easy day. Clear your email from the week and all those things. After you've done your leads and your applicants, you haven't got pre-qual. Tuesday, update day, right? That's not unique to me. There's so many coaching programs to do loan updates on Tuesdays. And the secret
Can I
sauce
just
there,
say though, Todd, on
yeah.
Tuesdays, what I have found is with technology and automation, I feel like too many loan officers have automated that update, and they're robbing themselves from the conversations, like the low hanging fruit conversations. Because there's a lot of people who struggle with call reluctance, and they're like, what's the first thing that I say to an agent when I'm calling them? Like, I don't know what to talk about. And it's like, if you would just execute the Tuesday status update call, where you're calling the buyer's agent and the listing agent, like, that is an intentional, you have to make a call because you're a part of a transaction, you're giving an update. And then it could then bleed into, hey, I'm not sure if this is for you, but I'm also hosting an agent mastermind class this week. It's on Wednesday. Would it help if I shot you over the link so you could check it out? But too many will automate that Tuesday update, and they don't maybe see or understand what the true purpose is of that call and how it can bleed into future business. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're 1,000% correct. And I think there's definitely, I'm okay with the automated piece of it, right? So like my team in Arizona, there's actually a thing called an LSU, a loan status update form, that we're required to send out to an agent anytime they ask for it. So we actually send it out proactively every Tuesday, a member of our team does. And so I do like it. It's the backstop there, but it's not enough, right? I think it's a phone call too. It's not a text message. I know there's some people who do a customized video. I don't think that's bad either, right? If you're like, hey, Deborah, but if it's just like a generic one, hey, it's me, it's your Tuesday update, right? So I think there's a couple of things with it. Number one is that when someone goes under contract, you should be calling everybody and laying out the process. And so it's an easy opportunity with that listing agent, because they're going to take your call. You're the person who's doing the financing for a transaction that's going to pay them a commission. So you've become super important in their world. And so you get to call and say, hey, it's me, Todd Bookspan with the Bookspan Baker team. Super excited. We're going to be doing the financing for the Byrd family over on 123 Main Street in beautiful Allen, Texas. And just wanted to call and introduce myself. Make sure you didn't have any questions for me, and then let you know about the process. And then I shut up and I let them talk. And then I'd say, awesome. Hey, well, one of the things that I'm committed to do is every Tuesday, we're going to email you a loan status update. But more importantly, I'm going to give you a call proactively on Tuesdays before the end of the day. Now, I say before the end of the day, even though guess when I'm going to do it? By noon. I'm going to do it first thing so I don't get distracted. It's really why I do it first thing. And then I'm trying to set expectations that I can be way better than, right? Over promise, under promise, over deliver. And then I'm just setting it up that I'm going to have this conversation with them every week, because guess what? When they expect your phone call, it doesn't mean they won't call you on Friday or Monday, but they're less likely when they know you're going to call them on Tuesday. So it really does set you up for success. I do think if you get their voicemail, then you can send a follow-up text after that. Hey, just left you a Tuesday update. And I always do say, hey, this is Todd with your Tuesday update call. Like it's kind of like a branded thing. You're trying to differentiate yourself. You're trying to remind them while you're calling. And then you're right. You could say something, right? Hey, could it be possible, that we get together and have a cup of coffee? I'd love to learn a little bit more about you and your business. Um, if you guys notice, Deborah and I are slipping in our Phil Jones exactly what to say terminology here on these things. But I do think it's a huge opportunity, and I think that most loan officers get too busy or too lazy or just don't have it scheduled as a plan. And when I see me get too lazy, that's where you start texting people. Like you're like, well, I haven't answered my phone call the last 3 weeks. Who cares? Like it doesn't really matter. The bottom line is you left them a voicemail and then you sent them a text. You showed them that you're better. And my great example of it, Deborah, is Shay, the kid who took over my production. He's gotten 4 referrals, 2 that have already closed from a listing agent from last year that was just at that time, not even she was just a part-time agent. He didn't know it, but he's new and he pursued her anyway, made sure he did a great job. Now she's full-time and she's already referred him clients. And so I think that's where you all might miss out. You're like, oh, that person they don't crush it. Well, great. Guess what? 2 transactions this year. That's pretty good from an agent who last year was part-time.
I mean, and I also think, I mean, the end goal with making these calls as well to the client is creating that systematic, warm referral base where if you could get a 5-star review for every closing, as well as at least one in-process referral. And that could be from the listing agent or the buyer's agent, but also to the client where you're asking them at the time of that contract that was executed. In fact, Tyler, I did a call with him on Mortgage Coach one of these Fridays, and he talked about how he would ask at that contracts call to the client, like, what would make this a 5-star experience for you? What would we need to do as a team to deliver on that? Because our goal by the end of this is to not only have a 5-star raving review from you, but also a referral of someone that you may know who is also looking to move to this neighborhood or blah, blah, blah. As the in-process goal. And then from repeat, like every annual review, they also plant the seed of every year. If you could, we'll do our part and help you manage the largest debt that we just helped you create. But also, could you come and could we rely on you to have maybe at least one referral a year? And so Tyler really built his business off of his reviews. Like he had at the time over 1,200 reviews, which is on Google. And I would just make a little plug that if you guys aren't getting Google reviews, you need to, because Google is the largest search engine. And if you can have keywords in there and the social proof of what people are saying about you, it's a great opportunity. He gets business just off that. And he also adds it to his buyer consultation presentations of like, look at how many reviews I have. It's not just me saying how great maybe our team is and how we do an exceptional job, but it's the people that we serve. And so look at how many closings you had just last month. Did you get 5-star reviews from each of those closings? If not, why not? And do you have a system and a process around generating new referrals and reviews on repeat?
All right, so here's the 3 words to write down: schedule, system, and process, right? I mean, the bottom line is this: is you are a professional loan officer, right? You're not an amateur here, right? We are pros. And if we're going pro, we have to have these things. And you said something, you said plant the seed. And I do think that's where we often fail. And it's because we feel like it's cheesy or salesy, but you have to be bold. And I love the idea that Tyler, I didn't watch that interview, so now I will. Maybe Paul can throw it into chat for us. But I think it's the whole idea of, you have to plant the seed. You're setting up what you expect down the road. And I always love that because we had a team member once, and she was bragging to the team that her friend was going to go do a Yelp, or her friend, a client, it wasn't a friend of hers, a client loved her so much. Like, this lady loved me. She's going to do a Yelp review. I'm so excited. And then she got a 4-star Yelp review. And I'm like, you know what? Not everyone will give someone 5 stars all the time. And so not only did you say, asking for a review, you said 5-star review. You have to tell people what you want. Hey, my goal is to provide you 5-star service. Along the way, if at any point I'm not providing that, please let me know. And then think about that, right? You're doing Tuesday update calls. Midway through, you're like, awesome. Hey, we're midway through. Am I still on track for a 5-star review, right? You're asking for these things. And it's not like at the end where you're like, hey, I would love a referral, like my business. Like you built that in, Deborah. I really like that part. And so again, think about it. It's just conversations and get comfortable with it. And feel like the first couple times it's going to be difficult, but you have to be uncomfortable with the uncomfortable. And so let me just round out the schedule piece real quick, just because I think a lot of you've heard it before, but let me just remind you again. I think the other things that you have to have, and again, it doesn't matter what day of the week you do these things, but do it at whatever day works for you. Wednesday, call your pre-approved clients, right? If they're going to buy within the next 30 days, you should be calling them every week. If they're buying within the next 60 days, you should be calling them every other week. And if they're beyond 60, call them every 3 to 4 weeks. It's amazing to me when I lived in Arizona and people would come in for, the golf tournament, the big drunk fest that we have, the Phoenix Open. They would come in for the spring training, all these things, and they would apply for a loan because they were thinking about buying a second home, and then they didn't buy one, and I kept in touch with them. And then in the fall, they'd be like, I can't remember that realtor's name, so I found a new realtor, but they remembered me because guess what? I called them every 3 to 4 weeks, left them a voicemail. If they didn't answer, just said, hey, it's me, Todd, just checking in. Hope everything's going great. You still coming back to watch the Mariners play this spring, right? I kept in touch with those folks. Thursday is proactive real estate agent call day, right? Again, call your best agents every 30 days, or call your best agents every week, call your second tier agents every other week, and call everyone else at least every 3 to 4 weeks. Todd Duncan always said, if you don't follow up with them, guess what? They won't follow up with you. And so it's just really important. Even that person who's going to send you 1 or 2 transactions a year. When I was doing loans, I had Stanley. He's a school teacher. Now he's a school principal. And guess what? Got 1 or 2 transactions from him a year, but I dropped him a voicemail because I called them during school every month, and they would call me once or twice a year and ask me questions and give me a referral. And so that's an opportunity. You got to be doing it. And I did it on Thursdays for a couple of reasons. I thought it was genius. It wasn't my idea. I was in a group coaching I was leading, and someone said, well, I do that on Thursdays, Todd, because if I call a realtor on Thursdays, it protects my weekend. Because they're like, oh, I'm like, what are you doing this weekend? Are you working or playing? They're like, oh, I'm doing an open house, right? So then again, flip open my Win by Noon planner. On Monday, I'm like, okay, call Deborah, see how the open house went. Oh, I'm taking the Smith family out. If I've already got the Smith family pre-approved, I'm like, on Monday in my planner, call Deborah, see how it went with the Smith family if I didn't hear from her over the weekend. And then lastly, if I'm like, who's the Smith family? Like, I don't even have them in my pre-approval. They're like, oh my gosh, I forgot. They just called me this morning, which, they called like a month ago to say they were flying in. And then that gave me a day and a half to chase them down and get the application. So I wasn't doing it at 5 o'clock on Saturday when I was walking in the movie theater. And then lastly, Friday, I already said annual mortgage review day. But I think that's the schedule I would start with. If you don't have one, adopt that one and go. And again, just download the ideal week, or you can always just email me, Todd at winbynoon.com. I can have Arnie, my assistant, send you over a PDF of it as well.
Okay, so Mondays were your catch-up day, Tuesdays status update, Wednesday pre-approvals, Thursday annual reviews. Is that what you said?
Thursday, proactive realtor calls.
And then Friday?
Friday is annual mortgage review day, right? And then just get ready for the weekend, right? I mean, I don't want y'all working 7 days a week, right? You're going to have to hopefully call a listing agent or two because you got people putting in offers. And, that's a great opportunity to have. But I do feel like when I got laser focused on that, my weekends were freer. And I really felt like I accomplished what I needed to accomplish in a week. I was a professional loan officer. I was already pretty darn good, but you have to remember, those of you who don't know my story, was I was pretty good. I did 400 loans for 3 straight years, over $80 million. But I was stuck, and I had written in my first business vision I did with Coach Bill Hart when he was a coach for Building Champions, and it said I was a $100 million producer, and I just couldn't get there. I just couldn't figure out what it was until I looked and realized I was getting in my own way because I was just busy doing the things I should have, like all day, without actually having a real plan. And so that's when I created the Win by Noon piece. I blocked off my mornings. No one could do anything. And that next year I closed 551 loans. I was number 23 loan officer in the country, all by just blocking my calendar and then sticking to it, right? It's so hard not to stick to it. But that was really, that was it. That was it. It was a game changer for me. And then when I became a coach and was telling one of my young gun clients about it, he's like, Coach, you won by noon. I'm like, heck yeah. And he's like, if you could put that in a package for me, that would be amazing. And so then the planner was born. It was used to just be a notebook I carried around and tracked it all in. So that's the abbreviated.
Well, I do think it's important to then talk about the tracking aspect of doing these activities. And one thing that's really unique about the planner is it tracks your activities and your results. And I think a lot of times we just look at the results piece, like how many closings did I have last month and how many applications and what's my conversion rate. But we don't know the activities that we did that got us the results that we have, and either we wanted or didn't want, right? So like, how could we track these things to know then, okay, if I need to dial it up, like you said, there's a lot of people who feel like they're already behind this year. Well, how do you know if you're not tracking the data. And then also, guys, it is May 2025. So think about what is usually happening in the lives of the families that you serve in May. We have school that's getting released. Okay, so school's almost out for summer. That means you could have some kids that are still in, K through 12. You may also have some that are graduating, and maybe for the first time they have a kid leaving the nest soon, or they have an adult child that will be coming back to the nest and maybe living with them. And so think about what's going on in their world, and then the sense of urgency of, okay, this is when it's like go time, where people are thinking, we've got to list the house. Like we've met with the agent, like maybe it was March, April. Here was the list of things that we had to do to get the house ready to go live. Now we're about to go live because we've got to be in our new home before the new school year starts. So this is like the time when you should see more applications, more fundings, like you're scoring more points on the board. And if you're not prepared and you don't have the daily schedule with also your tracking, how do you know where you need to make little micro improvements to get you the results that you want by the end of the year? So,
Yeah, it just makes me think. So I just threw a free trial code in there for Win by Noon. It's the trial
oh, great.
that I created for those who watch the Modern Mortgage Summit, but I had my team reactivated this morning so that we could give that out if anyone wants to try that. And a couple people have asked for the structure again. So here's the structure of what I call the ideal week. And I think it's a challenge, right? Don't get me wrong. It was hard for me to do this, but it just made such a big difference because I became more consistent, right? Consistency is the key. It's not sexy. It's just the key to being successful. And so every day you have to call leads, right? I mean, I was that loan officer who, had the napkin from when I was at lunch and I wrote the lead on it and I called it once or forgot to call it. And the realtor's like, hey, did you get a hold of Deborah Byrd to get her application? I'm like, oh, I left her voicemail. Let me call her again now. Well, guess what? When I had it actually in my planner and then you get it into your CRM, but then I actually was consistent and I converted more leads. When I grew from 400 loans to 550 loans, it wasn't because rates dropped. It wasn't because I got some new big builder account. It was a flat year over year in Phoenix. Like you go back there, look, rates didn't change. The housing numbers were the same. I was just consistent and I converted better because I did it every day. So you got to call leads every day. You got to call your applicants who you haven't gotten across the finish line. And again, if you don't know your numbers, like I can tell you right now, my team needs 5 leads to get 3 applications, to get 2 pre-qualified, and to get 1 closed. Now, think about that. If they could actually instead go from 3 applications to 2.5 qualified to get, then they would get a higher conversion rate. They would close more. And so I find that biggest gap when I was coaching loan officers is that they didn't do a great job of getting people who took the time to apply to actually get them pre-qualified. Now, again, some of those aren't going to qualify, 500 credit score. Some of them aren't, they're going to choose to buy later. That's okay. We're trying to build a pipeline. And so those are the 2 daily non-negotiable disciplines, and then target the activities. Monday, play catch up, follow up on the things from before, right? And that's what we forget, right? You're trying to create a system that's leak proof, right? That things don't fall out the bottom of the bucket and go, oh shoot, I missed that contract because I didn't call the agent. Oh shoot, I didn't get the open house leads because I didn't call. Right. But Monday set up the week, Tuesday update calls, right? And the secret there is script it, right? It's a scripted call, consistently done. And then the thing is always make sure not only you call both agents and the client, but you're calling the transaction manager, transaction coordinator, if there's one, because he or she knows all the other deals that are going sideways. Those are great referral sources. Wednesday, pre-approved buyers. Thursday, real estate agents. Fridays, annual mortgage reviews, and get set up for the weekend. And so again, if you just go to the Win by Noon group, I think Deborah put a link in the chat. You can just ask to be let in. I'll let anyone in who's part of the Mortgage Coach community. And, would love to have you in there. I don't know, makes me think some point if you guys think it would be helpful to you, I've done historically at least once a year, a class that I call Operating System 2.0. And it's typically an 8-ish week class where spend an hour-ish, 90 minutes, really walking through the nuts and bolts of what I trained brand new loan officers on to become successful. And I did it once a year during COVID. I did it like 3 times one year and got burned out and haven't done it since then. But it was really nuts and bolts, the scripting, the processes that, not only did made my team, I think, world class, but, some of the other amazing people you see here on the Mortgage Coach channel who were my coaching clients back in the day.
So what about anything from a perfect repeatable month standpoint when you're looking at strategically growing partners? So, we just really hit on the client experience and the loan process, but what about doing events, doing educational, maybe Zooms, doing exactly
This is
what
where you start to scare people, right? This is where you start to scare people, right? Like, so let me just say this, right? You have to build the foundation of the home first, right? You got to pour the cement. So you got this foundation. So that's the schedule piece that I just walked you through. And then I think you go a little further up, right? A little further up in the home. And yeah, you're right. You need to do these things because the reason that we don't call real estate agents is because we don't have a reason why to call them, right? So obviously when you have a contract, a client, a pre-approved, all that stuff, there's the reason for them to answer the phone, but we have call reluctance because we don't know what else to invite them to. And I think that's the challenge, Deborah. So, I mean, what do you recommend there?
Well, so we have a content calendar that we give to clients every single month, and it has different planned activities, and we actually will come up with topic ideas for the once a month, and we call it an agent mastermind. I like to do it the first Wednesday of the month, making it consistent. That way it's also easy for agents to remember, but it's a 1 hour class. I do like the face-to-face. I think it's okay to do the Zoom every once in a while, but it's a lot easier to RSVP for a class and then don't show or just ask for the replay. And a lot of people then still don't even watch the replay. And the whole goal is to get belly to belly and just really build the connection. Like, what are the things that Rocket Mortgage and these big guys can't do? It's being the human and sitting kneecap to kneecap and really hearing the untold stories that maybe some of your partners may be struggling with, or maybe they are going to be empty nesters soon. And so where could you lean in a little bit and make connection the super glue that then makes them, loyal to you moving forward? So to me, I feel like the best way to do that is live. So again, the first Wednesday of every single month, whether you host it at your office, I have found that's the hardest part. Is most people are like, but where do we host this? Like, we don't have a training, room in our office. So it can sometimes be, that's usually the biggest obstacle for people. But this repeatable mastermind is a way for you to continuously nurture all of the agents that you're hopefully dating and getting to know. Where if our clients, we say at least 4 one-on-one business agent meetings a week. So that's Tuesday through Friday in the afternoon. You have to have at least one qualified agent. Qualified agent means they've done 8 buy-side deals in the last 12 months. So we need to really guard our time and look at who are the people that we're calling and wanting to invest a one-on-one meeting with. Too many times when I'm talking to clients, I'm like, why would you call this agent? They've done 2 deals in the last 12 months. Like, why aren't we being more strategic with who we call when we know? I think the most recent stat was 70% of agents do less than 5 deals a year. So once you have these business meetings, like, then what's the strategy to nurture them? Well, if you have this repeatable first Wednesday of the month class, one, it puts accountability on you to have something to talk about. This month, we are doing No Lead Left Behind, and it's the blueprint of your SIT management program of how you stay in touch. And you're basically showing, here's your bulletproof process where no lead gets left behind unless they say buzz off or maybe they pass. But you have like a systematic approach that proves with evidence of like, here's day 1, day 3, day 7, everything that we do from the moment you refer someone to us to then when they apply, to then when they're under contract, to then post closing. And all of this is meant to help increase their conversion and optimize their referral that they just sent. So that's what this agent mastermind for this month is about. And again, when you make it the first Wednesday at the same time, same location, it's really easy for people to then just show up, kind of like these Friday calls, Todd. Like, every Friday, people know that they may not know who we're interviewing or what the topic is, but they know to tune in because it's just on repeat. It's a habit now for them. So beyond just the agent mastermind class, we also do a client educational event. So this is typically via Zoom, although maybe once a quarter we do it live, where for this month, we're talking about if you have an 18-year-old who is going off to college, it's a good idea to have a medical power of attorney, because once they're 18, if God forbid something happens to them when they're in college, even though you're their parent, you cannot make any decisions for them unless you have a medical power of attorney. And so that's not directly related to real estate or mortgage, but it's to keep you in front of them. That is the hub of like family, showing that you care. And it's also a way to get them to invite maybe their coworkers or their friends to this Zoom, where you can have maybe an estate attorney or an attorney that's willing to maybe do these for $50, or it doesn't always have to be you leading the class. So Todd, I know you just
I think
recently.
that's the key. I think that's the key because you just scared everybody, right? They're like, oh my gosh, I got to call agents who are doing 8 deals. So number one is you can get your reps in on the agent doing 2 deals a year. Like, don't be scared to get some reps in on the other people. And number two is that because you make the easy button with your plug and play clients by giving them the content to help them do these things. But I think you're 100% right. You have to set it up every month. And don't worry about where you do it. Here's the 2 easiest ways to do it. Number one is you don't need a training room because you're not going to have that many people to start. You're going to have like 3 to 5 people. So you're going to do it in your conference room, in your office, or you're going to team up with your favorite title rep and do it in their office. So since last year, I've been doing a monthly training with a good friend of mine, Lori Richardson, and her agents up in Colorado. And they meet in a title rep's office. He's invited new agents that she doesn't know that now know her and sending her business. And the content is it's not that hard to find, right? So Lori's part of Modern Mortgage IQ, so she's used some of the videos from the Modern Real Estate Summit, showed those. She has hired me to come in and teach exactly what to say. So that would be great. That was obviously a great one. And we talked about that for 3 straight months. And we still bring it up now. It's still a pillar of the conversation. And then the last one literally was they emailed in what they were struggling with. And then we had all these other things we found online, like a Tom Ferry video. We had other videos that were free online videos to have a conversation with. And we spent the whole time going through their struggles and them helping each other with their struggles. Didn't even need to get to the pre-done content. And this is a 2 hour, once a month meeting. Now, I will say this, it originally was monthly in person, and now because they've brought me in to be involved in it, and I don't live in Colorado. I fly there once a quarter. We do it live, and then we do the in-betweens on Zoom. But Zoom is harder unless you've got a great group, and this is a great group of seasoned agents who started face-to-face for a couple of years, and so it's easy to do. It's really hard to do that when you start off up front. So I think that's really the key. But the bottom line is think about what it is you can invite people to. If you're going to get in front of realtors, that's the name of the game. What is it that I can do that gives me a reason besides a Tuesday update call to say, hey, what about this thing? One of the things my business partner Matt does is he does a 20-minute once a month market update. So he does it's on the economy, interest rates, and housing. And he uses slides from Bridge Builders from KCM, uses slides that we have here in the Mortgage Coach community, and talks about the economy, talks about then specifically interest rates and what's moving them and what's going on, and then talks about housing specifically in the Arizona market where he does most of his business. And then agents know that they can show up on Zoom. It's at 12:30, whatever, the second or third Wednesday of the month. But it's just one more thing to invite people to that make him an expert. And he makes it client and real estate agent friendly. And then real estate agents can send a link out afterwards to their clients who want to know more. And it makes Matt look really smart, but all he's really doing, well, he is really smart, but all he really is doing is regurgitating what all of us talk about in these communities.
Okay, so you mentioned speaking for exactly what to say. I think it's a perfect time to also announce our new exactly what to say course.
Whoop, whoop.
If
Yeah.
you want to share, I'm going to put you on the spot. I know we didn't talk about sharing that today, but I think it's a good segue, and also how the top producers are winning. I really feel like there are people who tell me, yeah, but I'm doing exactly what the nerd said. Like I'm doing this, and I'm like, yeah, but it's more than just the calendar. It's learning what to say, how to say it, when to say it, to make that your superpower. So
Well,
why
I think
don't
it's a
you
confidence
announce?
thing. Yeah, I think it's a confidence thing too. And so, so it was interesting, right? Was on Deborah and I are both certified guides with Phil Jones. If you're not familiar with exactly what to say, I'm shocked because we've had Phil on a bunch. He's been really some of our top viewed videos have been our interviews and the stuff that we've done with Phil over the last number of years. And his book, Exactly What to Say, has sold, I think, is it almost 3 million copies, 2 million, whatever. It's millions of copies, and it's the #1 listened to nonfiction Audible in the world. Now, here's why. We're all guilty of it. We've bought an Audible and we've listened to just this much of it. The average person listens to 0.3 of a book before they stop, and the average person who's bought Exactly What to Say has listened to it almost 8 times. And Deborah and I have been doing, we've had hey, we talk about it a little bit here, right? The free version. And then we have the $2,500 sit in a room with us for 2 days certification. And we didn't have anything in the middle. And so we really came up with an offer that Phil endorsed us to do, because when you go through a certification, you get a workbook that not only has the 23 magic words, it actually has the 4 cornerstones of critical conversations, and also has 32 magic words and phrases in a specific order. And so we've gotten permission from Phil to do a 4-hour masterclass, let's just call it. We've used the word master a lot today, but mastermind, masterclass. But it's critical conversations for loan officers, where we're going to spend 4 hours on a semi-deep dive into the 4 cornerstones, and then we're going to do role play for most of it. And what we're going to do is, it's going to be in July. It's going to be way less than a $2,500 certification. We're going to run an early bird for a bit until we fill up too many, and then we'll stop the early bird, but it'll be $399. So it's still not cheap, but you're going to get the workbook that you only get when you go to a $2,500 certification. And you got to sign up early so we can get you the workbook before it starts. And it's going to be 4 hours on Zoom. But the cool part is we're going to do it twice. So you actually, when you pay the $400, you don't get 1 day, you get 2 days. It's going to be the same class both days. So that way we're doing it on a Monday, July 7th, and Wednesday, July 9th. And we're doing it 2 days because some of you are like, I can't do a Monday, or some of you are like, I can't do Wednesday. Well, it doesn't matter which day you can come to, or you can just come to both. You can come to half of one, half of the other. And we're going to really try to do a great job of helping you have the confidence to be able to use the magic words and phrases and understand a little bit more of behind the curtain, the stuff that we don't talk about when we just do a quick conversation here on Zoom on a mortgage coach call. And we're going to get to use the workbook, Deborah, which is pretty darn cool.
It is very cool. So guys, this is the workbook. Again, the only way that you can usually get a workbook is by doing a certification. I'm fired up that we're able to do this, that Phil's kind of given us this middle option, because for some, it's not always a financial thing. Sometimes it's just the travel. Like, how do I get to Dallas? It's 2 full days. I really want to go deeper in this work. And then also, sometimes we get people who have read the book, and they'll come up to us and they'll tell us how it's going, how they've had success, and they'll put one magic word in here or there, and they really don't understand kind of the art and science behind the methodology with Exactly What to Say. And that's because the book, obviously, for it to be translated in over, I think, 29 different languages, it's been used in 800 different industries. He really had to trim the fat to make it general enough to be able to scale. So that's what Todd and I have been working with Phil on. And in fact, we're working on the mortgage edition of Exactly What to Say. And so I'm fired up. It's going to be July 7th and July 9th. So go ahead and save those dates. If you guys want to sign up and get the early bird discount, you can go ahead and click the link in chat. Looks like that Todd has put that in the chat. Any chance that's also on your link tree in your bio on Instagram? Have you
Man, you would
added
have been
that
so
yet?
smart, Deborah, if I would have thought about that. But, it's just one of those things where, the fact that I'm already in trouble with my brothers because of the fact that we're supposed to be out at the music festival already,
Oh,
eating trout dizzy and, listening to some music. But
well, send
so
me
no,
your login to that link tree, because I only have the
all
one
right,
by noon one, and I'll
I will,
update it. But
I will get it on there, toddbookspan.me. And I don't know, I'm really fired up about it because I feel like I've done a number of 1-hour keynotes this year, and I feel like even in an hour, it's hard to get across. I've done a couple of 90 minutes, and I feel like that's a little bit better. I feel like I leave people with something that's more actionable. And the thing that I think we're going to really make sure y'all understand is a couple of things. Number one is that when we talk about critical conversations, I really think that you have critical conversations in a few areas. Number one is the critical conversations with your clients, right? We really want to make sure that, we help you with the critical, the magic words and phrases that will help you convert at a higher rate. I think that's going to be, number one, because the bottom line is that we don't get as many at-bats in a market like this, and we got to make every at-bat count. Number two is what we just talked about a few minutes ago is how do we get comfortable having a conversation with a real estate agent that we might not know as well? And so we're going to absolutely dig in and spend a big chunk of the time on the conversations that we need to have with the real estate agents. And I think that that's going to be really important. Now, this is going to be meeting style, right? We're going to meet y'all, but then we're going to actually have some conversation. So it's going to be a workshop, and not everyone's going to get to talk, but most of you will have y'all have the opportunity to talk. It's just some of you are going to be quieter than others, and then the last one, which is the funniest one, is really your personal conversations with your friends, your coworkers, and your significant other, because we all need to be better at that. And my favorite part when Deborah and I taught our first certification in Arizona was that it was expensive to park at the hotel, and my team all bought tickets. I didn't let them come for free, and they were too cheap to pay for parking, so they parked at my house, and my wife carpooled them over. And my wife said, "Hey, well, give me an example of some of these words." And Nathan on my team said, "I'm sorry, Tara, I can't tell you what the words are because I think Todd's already using them on you." And but the bottom line is this: it's really great to be better communicator with your spouse, and in my case, my children also.
100%. I mean, I would think it's something that we never master. And in conversations and communication, like when you think back of the last miscommunication you had, like what is poor communication costing us really in our personal lives, in our professional lives? It's just, y'all need to sign up for this class. And so for those of you who are listening to this, maybe on the replay on the YouTube channel, and know that all of these recordings do go on the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, I'm going to go ahead and nominate for you guys to DM Todd on Instagram, and he can send you the early bird discount link so you can get that.
Yeah, and I put the code in there. It's EBC 100. So it stands for early bird code. We're like really original here. EBC 100 will save you $100. And I forgot. Arnie set it up. It's got a limited number of spots until then you don't get that. And then she created a $50 early bird code for afterwards. So if you want the $100 off, don't wait. And just know it's 2 days. And the reason we did 2 days is so you have no excuse of, hey, I can't make one, but you have the opportunity to come to both. And so I really liked that idea. That was Phil's idea. And I thought, dang, that's pretty smart. That's pretty smart. And it's going to be unique because this is mortgage specific, right? This is all about you all. It's not generic how to, have a conversation when you go to a restaurant, although we certainly could talk about those things. This is like real life in our jobs that we need to fight for in 2025. More so than ever. It's interesting too, because Paul wrote up earlier in here, he said, what gets measured gets improved or can improve, or whatever that quote is. And, you're talking about that. I mentioned conversion rates earlier. And I mean, really, if you think about that, right, if you can increase your conversion rate slightly on the same number of leads you have, I mean, that's a game changer. So if you don't know your numbers, go back to where you started. I said you have to have a few words you had to write down, right? We had to write down schedule, standards, processes. And I think it's also numbers. You have to know your numbers. And if you don't know what your numbers are, that's a mistake. And I already told you what my team's numbers are, right? My team's numbers are 5 leads to 3 apps to 2 pre-qualified to 1 closed. And we're really focused right now on improving each step, because if we can just improve each step just a little bit, then the overall end number is going to go higher. Now, the other part is, and Deborah mentioned it with Win by Noon, is that you actually have to figure out, well, then how many people do I have to talk to get there? How many real estate agents? I mentioned my operating system 2.0, and one of my favorite exercises is go and look at your 2024 closings, and then pull out your purchases. And with those purchases, then look at the number of real estate agents that referred you leads, not that you closed with, that referred you leads. And then look, how many real estate agents do you need to have to get one closed loan? It's just a math equation. And then what you're going to realize is that you probably need to double or triple the number of agents you have to reach your goal. Because I'll have loan officers say, well, my goal this year is to do 48 transactions. And I'm like, okay, awesome. How many did you do last year? I did 24. Great. Okay, well, how many realtors referred you to get there? 12. Okay, so each person averaged 2. Well, guess what? Then if I'm going to double my business, I need 24 realtors. But it's normally not that easy. Normally it's like, well, I had 36 agents that referred me 24 closed deals, or 48 agents that referred me 24. I'm using numbers I can do the math in my head in case you didn't figure it out. But if you have 48 agents that referred you and you only closed 24 transactions with those, that means it's half per person. So if I'm going to double my business, then I need 96 agents. It's a big freaking number right now in this market. And so again, it's a numbers game. You got to know your numbers to know how hard you're going to work, because ultimately in the end, you're just going to decide, well, shoot, maybe I don't want to work that hard. But I'll tell you, some of the biggest loan officers in the country I've coached through this process, when they had a number in mind, like, I mean, these people are big thinkers. These people are like, I'm going to retire in 10 years. And I'm like, great. Well, how much money do you have to retire? I have no idea. So they had to meet with their financial advisor. And then they're like, okay, here's how much money I need to make every year in order to retire in 10 years. I'm like, awesome. Well, then how many transactions do you have to close to make that much money? And so then they had to figure that out. And I'm like, awesome. And then I'm like, okay, well, how many realtors do you have to have in order to close that many transactions? And always it was a big number. And the best part about it is when I gave them the homework to go into their CRM and look at all the realtors in the past, whatever you want to call it 1 to 3 years, that were listing agents or used to referring business who haven't, or have come to some type of class that they taught. They always had more than enough agents that they already knew that they could just go back to and try to get business from, instead of having to go out there and cold call agents they didn't. And so again, it's a commitment to figuring out what's required to get to where you're trying to go. And it sounds really nerdy, or maybe it sounds overwhelming to you, but it's not. It's just a process of taking the time to do the research. And if you don't track these things, guess what? Best time to start was last year or the year before or 20 years ago. The next best time to start is today.
Well, and I have to mention Tom Brady, who talks about how, I don't know if you heard this speech, Todd, but he was like, I was nothing special. I was just consistent. And as long as you're consistent for long enough, I feel like that's where most people drop off, is they maybe are super consistent for like a week or 2 weeks and they don't immediately see the results that they want. And so then they get lazy with it and they just quit and they abandon it. Or they start to build momentum and it kind of becomes chaos. Like they don't guard their time and really protect each day with proactive time blocks. Say, okay, I'm going to do my marketing and sales activity before noon every day so I can win the day, which helps build the business long term. And then allow the other minutia where we get stuck in files, or maybe you get locked out of Encompass and you're busy being busy, but you don't feel like you're going anywhere. So how do you future proof your business? Well, it's just getting good and consistent at the boring things, like the non-sexy things, doing the Tuesday status update calls, doing the protect the pipeline calls. And I will say that's probably the biggest gap I see in most businesses of the LOs that we serve, is the Wednesday. Like if they don't have someone that buys within the first like 4 weeks, they kind of get lost in the shuffle. And most can't tell me how many pre-approved clients they have that haven't yet bought, but were pre-approved. And I mean, like even going back over the last 6 months, who were the people that actually raised their hand and have interest and have the budget, but couldn't find the home that they wanted? Why do we just lose track of them and always chase like the next month with the next round of closings that we're trying to get like right now? So I think as a gift for everyone who's listening, I'm going to leave it to you, Todd, to wrap up. But I say we give them the last 10 minutes where we don't go the full hour this time, with the request that you guys use the last 10 minutes to then execute some of the things that we talked about and go ahead and plan your week for next week. How does that sound?
I think that's great. I love that idea. And so let me just think through kind of a couple of thoughts. So you mentioned Tom Brady, so it almost makes me want to just put on my Eagles championship hat that I'm going to wear out to the festival today.
God.
And, talk about motivation, right? What's going to motivate you? And so there was a story about Jalen Hurts. And if you don't know who Jalen Hurts is, he was the Super Bowl winning MVP of the Philadelphia Eagles this year. But 2 years ago, he lost in the Super Bowl. And his phone screen was that, little screen. So my screen is, me and my kid right now. And there's my brother wondering why we're not leaving for the festival, who's texting me. And his screensaver was him at the Super Bowl 2 years ago when he lost, walking off the field, and it's the confetti coming down. And so when the Eagles won, the confetti was green and silver for Eagles colors, but in the picture that he had on his phone as a screensaver, it was red and gold, right? Red and yellow, the color of the Kansas City Chiefs who just beat him. And that was his motivation. And so what I want you to think about is, what's it going to take for you to make the decision to do the things that are required to get to where you're trying to go, right? And I can't motivate you. I can't want it for you more than you want it for yourself. And I know that I got to that point. I said it earlier, 3 straight years that were pretty dang good years, 400 to 440 loans, 80 to $84 million. But it wasn't who I wanted to be. I didn't have me losing the Super Bowl, but I had the fact that I had 3 great years and I couldn't do what I was trying to accomplish. And so I just want to encourage you. It's just a couple of small steps, but the first start is here, right? It's in your head. You've got to choose to be the one who wants to go out there and win the rest of 2025. Uh, every Friday and Tuesdays and all during the week, Dave has conversations with the best of the best, and they all have amazing ideas. But at some point, you have to take action on what it is that you're learning. And so I would go back to where we started today. Number one is, if you're not following Deb on social media, Plug and Play SM, follow her, because she's giving you free advice on the social media side of things. Number two is create a schedule for yourself and stick to it, right? You have to choose to stick to it. It's hard to stick to a schedule, right? It's even hard for me today, and I've been doing this now for a long time, this whole idea of getting it done. And the reason that you do it first is because it's really easy to react the rest of the day. And then just think through those things that we talked about, knowing your numbers, working a schedule, and then think about your systems and processes and create scripts around it. If you've got the budget and you can show up for our critical conversations for loan officers class, we would love to have you there. We're very excited about it. It's going to be something that's unique. And the bottom line is this, is that there's no better day than right now to go out there and get at it. We're going to jump you off here 10 minutes early. You got an hour blocked for here. And so I'm going to request of you, I would require it of yourself, right? Choose to do it and say, okay, take that 10 minutes and say, what is it that I can do in order to make sure that I take something that Todd and Deborah said to take action on, and just pick the one or two things that really hit it the most. But the bottom line is this, is that we do this because we care about you. I've come to Jazz Fest the last 3 years. This is my 4th year in a row. And Friday, I'm like, I'm out. But when transparently, when I knew Dave wasn't going to be here, and I had the opportunity with Deborah to kind of dig in, and we could run a show that we could talk about what we're most passionate about, which is helping all of you grow, I wouldn't miss it. And so bottom line is this, I'm going to head out and listen to some great music. Very excited because I'm going to see Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. For all you 80s folks, she's going to be there. I don't know who else is playing, Luke Bryan or somebody, and Santana was last night, and Pearl Jam's tonight, or maybe they're tomorrow night too, but there's going to be lots of people out there. But the bottom line is this, is that I want it for you, and I want you to want it for you, but you got to make the choices in order to get there. And so, as always, on behalf of Dave, the Trust Engine Mortgage Coach community, Deborah, the Plug and Play SM crew, myself, Win by Noon, and my Philadelphia Eagles, thanks for being here. We can't wait to see the success that you're going to have. If we can help in any way, Todd at winbynoon.com. As always, thanks for being around with us. We appreciate you.